What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Not a Sheep podcast. My name is Narwhal. I'm here with my buddy Matt.
What's up?
And we're also joined by Jake Crocker.
What's going on?
Thanks for being here, Jake. This is super cool. It's awesome to have another producer finally. You're the second producer, but you're also a hometown guy from Seattle. So it's super cool.
Hometown legend.
Oh shit! Not a legend yet, but we're working on it. We're working on it.
Yeah,
But-
you've got to work with a lot of people from Seattle that have really blown up in the last couple of years. Like Ryan, is it Caraveo?
Caraveo, yeah,
Caraveo?
Ryan Caraveo.
That's how you say it.
Yeah, I've been listening to him since high school, so it's been like 4 or 5 years, and it's been
That's
awesome to see
dope,
him
man.
blow up. And then I found out who you were just a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh shit, he's like worked with him. He's worked with Dempsey Hope, who recently, like, we've heard of for a
Rising
while,
pop
but
star, yeah.
yeah, he's been blowing up recently.
Yeah, man. Yeah, been all over the place. I've been in the Seattle scene for, damn man, like 11 years now, which is
Dang.
nuts. Like I look back at it, like I got into the Seattle scene at like the age of 14. You know,
Wow.
So it was a really early start with everything, and I mean I test a lot of it to my parents. You know, big part of it was just me saying like, hey, I want to be a music producer, where like most kids would, you know, be told by their parents, can I swear on this or no?
go for it.
Yes. Okay. I just
Whatever.
wanna make sure. They were like, "Fuck no, bro. What are you doing? Like, go to law school. Go be a doctor or whatever." But no, my parents were just like, "Dude, like, if that's what you love to do, then go be the best at it." So, got a jump on the music thing at a really young age, which I think gave me a really cool jump start with regards to learning the industry. And now that like I've been in it for 10 years, I have all of the knowledge of a veteran, but I'm like just starting to reach the point where I want to be, right? You know, so it's a cool place to be, and it's definitely a different perspective, because you do see a lot of producers that are like 16, 17, and they just make one song and it hits and then they're on. And I look back and I'm so grateful that I didn't like pop off when I was like 17 years old, because I'd be an entirely different producer, I think, in my mind at least.
Yeah,
Totally. I saw in a video you said like you got your start kind of by reaching out to, I think it was Raz Simone, just like reach out to him on Instagram or something saying like, could I send you some beats? And he was like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that was it was kind of like right when I first started making music. You know, I'd been making music forever. I started making beats when I was like 12 years old at my cousin's house. And then I turned like 13, 14, and I was like, "Yo, Dad, I think I'm trying to do this." And he was like, "Cool, let me try and pirate some software." And then, and then it all started, man. So by the age of like 14, I was sending shit around to a bunch of artists and stuff. And it was never really to like canvas my own work or anything. You know, it was always like, "Hey guys, I just want to let you know that you're inspiring us younger kids." You know, it was always that. It was
Yeah.
always that, because I knew even back in the day, like I didn't want to be the 15-year-old kid, 14-year-old kid that's like, yo, use my beats, because
Yeah.
that's like everywhere, bro. It was. So I just
Totally.
decided, I was like, hey, I'm gonna go introduce myself to these individuals in a personal way and create a relationship, and I hit up a ton of people back in the day. And when I first started making stuff, and there was 2 people who responded, and the 2 that responded were, one was Raz Simone, and then the other was Ryan Lewis. Actually, it was prior to all the
Oh, wow.
Macklemore and Ryan
Dang.
Lewis blow up stuff. So it was like kind of right when they were really starting to get hot and stuff, like right before it actually. And so I created a little relationship with Ryan Lewis back then, and I was like a huge fan of his own individual like production work, the instrumental work that he was doing and stuff. And like he had this song called Fake Empire back in the day that just blew my mind. But so anyway, I reached out to a bunch of people, but they were the 2 that responded, and that led to a small little relationship at the time with Ryan Lewis, and that led to me eventually, long story short, producing all of Raz Simone's music for the years to come. Not all of it, but a good amount of the music that came out years after that. So that was my big start. You know, it kind of all jumped into the hip hop industry like really quickly. Even though at the time I was making all kinds of different weird shit. I was like, I grew up listening to
Yeah.
all kinds of weird music, so I was never just a hip hop guy growing up or just a pop guy or whatever. My iPod was just full of so many random artists and stuff that by the time I got to the point where I was creating my own sound and starting to learn the actual process of making music, I had so many different inspirations from so many different areas. So, but the hip hop door was the first door that opened. So I ran through it. You know.
Yeah. That's crazy to me that you had like the self-awareness when you were 14 and 15 to know like kind of the right way to go about it, that you didn't want to
Yeah.
be this like annoying fanboy type of character
Yeah.
and more of
Yeah.
like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of people are just, I don't know, when you're young, you don't really know the ropes, but it seems like
Yeah.
you did it in like a really smart way.
I did my best. I'm sure if I went back and looked at a few messages, I'd be like, what are you doing? Like, why did you say that? But no, like I think a lot of that too is that I grew up an only child, you know. So I was friends with all of my dad's friends and my mom's friends and shit. So I was
Yeah.
always that, 10-year-old kid that was kicking it with grown ass adults. So I was forced to have adult conversations and be able to hang out in that setting and not just be the annoying little kid, but be one of the boys, you know? So I quickly at a young age learned my role, and that I think was a big reason that I was able to relate to people who are older than me, because all of the artists I was reaching out to were significantly older than me, you know? As like a 14-year-old little chubby white boy coming at him like, "Hey, I make beats, guys." You know, and
Yeah.
you got to come off in the right way and show them that you're genuine and not just trying to get shit from people, you know?
Yeah. And it's cool that, I've talked about before, for me, like I'm a videographer and editor, and in my
Mhm.
career path so far, I've had a lot of situations where I've reached out to like just emailing people out of the blue, like hundreds of people, and a lot of people don't respond,
Dude, yeah.
but it's like you did the same thing, and it's for
All it
me,
takes is that one.
yeah, it just takes one person to
It does,
respond that could
man.
like set up your whole career.
I mean, that's the thing that people don't realize too. I mean, that's the same thing, like relationship wise, but also music wise. All it takes is one single song. You know, people will just be hitting their heads on the table because their third song didn't do well and shit like that. And it's like, bro, I've been at this for 10, 11 years now, and I'm like finally getting to a point where I'm getting to the point where I actually am close to where I want to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that took 11 years to get to this point. And if it was all about the money or all about the looks or whatever it is, the clout and shit, I would have quit 9 years ago, probably. You know,
Yeah.
like, and just people just have to learn how to be patient in this industry, and that's something that comes with time, and it comes with, really just educating yourself on how this industry works and whatnot. At least in my opinion.
Yeah. So you said that hip hop was the first door that kind of opened for you. So you
Yeah.
kind of went through that. But now you're at a point where you're producing for a lot of pop artists, hip hop still. Like, how does your process kind of change, or what has it been like for you? Kind of expanding. I mean, you said you've always been into different types of music,
Yeah.
but what's it been like producing for artists that are getting big in all these different genres, and how differently does your workflow go when you're working with Dempsey Hope versus,
Yeah.
a
Any
different
other artist.
rap
Yeah, well,
artist?
it's all over the map, man. And the thing is that that's something that I've grown into, right? That's not something that from the jump was like instantly easy to do, switching genres and stuff. Because I, as I jumped into the hip hop industry, I dove in really hard, so that was majority of what I was making. But I was always making this other music, right? Just other. I just called it other. I don't know, just other shit that wouldn't
Yeah.
be for rapper A, B, and C to get on, you know. But so I quickly learned that I had to change my mindset when it comes to working with certain people, and a lot of that I learned from, actually, it was just this one scene in this documentary, and Dr. Dre was in it, and he was talking about how he can't work on an Eminem song in a Snoop Dogg mindset, and he can't
Mm.
work on a Snoop song in an Eminem mindset or any other artist that he works on, right? Even outside genres and stuff. And from that moment, I watched that and I was like, I need to create the separation, right? So if I'm working with a Dempsey Hope, who is, pop with a lot of organic roots and a lot of that, the natural sounding instruments and whatnot, it's entirely different working with him versus sitting down in a session with Vrilla, another artist I'm working with,
Yeah.
building, who makes entirely different music. But that's what keeps me inspired personally, and that's a big reason I went down the producer route, and am really in love with the decision of going down that route, because I get to wake up every day and make different music, right? I'll have a session at noon and we'll work for 3 hours on a contemporary pop song, and then I'll have a session a few hours later and we're working on like this trap ass beat or whatever it is, and it just it keeps me alive because every day is different, you know.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
would do you ever feel like you get burnt out, or does that
Oh
give
hell
you
yeah. No,
you
I'm
do?
yeah. Oh yeah, bro. I mean, if anybody says they don't get burnt out, like I won't say they're lying, but I'd love to have a conversation with them because I doubt that's true because we all
Yeah.
get burnt out, bro. It's impossible to be on 100 at all times. And that's a big thing I'm carrying into 2021 is trying to live the mindset, or I guess I'll rephrase that. I want to kind of change um the mindset of grind, 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 never sleep, never sleep. Because that's just not that's not healthy. Like,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Like I've done that. Believe me, I've lived that life. In the early days when I was working with Raz, it was like we had sessions at the 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. slot.
Yeah.
Right? It was insane because it was like $20 cheaper or something per hour.
Yeah.
So we booked like 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. like every night, but I was still going to school. So I would like leave.
Oh my god.
And I mean, the same thing in high school and in college, but in college in particular, it was kind of crazy because I went and did the music program at Shoreline Community College. And our studio was like out north. And so I would go to the studio at 2 a.m., work until 6 a.m., maybe sleep on the floor for like 30 minutes, and then hop in the car and I would drive to Shoreline Community College by like 7 a.m. and I got to sleep in my car for an hour before like my 8 a.m. class.
Oh my
It
god.
was ridiculous, dude. And I look back and I'm really grateful that I did it because I get to tell it in situations like this. But fuck
Yeah.
that. You know, it's like that's just it's not like the healthy way of living. And for me, when it comes to having a career, not just a moment in the industry, but having a career, it takes a lot of discipline, right? And it takes a lot of discipline to know when you need a break and to know when you need to take a little bit of time outside of the studio. And that's a big thing because people ask me all the time, like, how do you deal with writer's block or producer block or beat block, whatever you want to call it, right? Leave, get out of the studio. Like that's the only way to get over it, you know, go on a fucking walk, go
Yeah.
outside or something, you know. So yeah, that's definitely I entirely forget where we started,
No, I was
but
just seeing if you get burnt out. And I mean, but
oh yeah.
what's interesting is that mindset of like, oh, grind, like never sleep. I'll sleep when I'm dead. Like, I agree with you, but it's
Yeah.
also tough because at the same time, a lot of successful people can say, like, I did do that, but I don't do it anymore. Or if I
Mhm.
could go back, I wouldn't do it. But at the
Mhm.
same time, like, maybe if you didn't do those 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. sessions, although they sucked, you might have not gotten certain things or achieved
A
certain
hundred
things.
percent.
So it's like at the same time, maybe that's necessary at certain times of your life, you know?
I definitely think it's necessary because if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have the perspective right now to be able to say that that's probably not the right way of living,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But it's important to go experience that and go do that in order to earn your stripes, right? But I'm still earning my stripes. So there are times when I am still back in that kind of living, right? Where it's like, hey, I know when I go to LA, I'm going to have 2 weeks of just jam packed work. And it's going to be endless. I'm not going to sleep great. And I'm going to right? I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna be dead. But that's awesome. Like I get to live that. And I guess you kind of fall in love with certain parts of it, but uh, it's more of like how you structure yourself, right? Because it's really easy to make excuses and be like, oh well, I need to be healthy, so I'm just gonna skip out on this opportunity so I
Yeah.
can sleep, right? That's different. That's
Yeah.
different versus like the mentality of like shoving it down these kids' throats that they have to never sleep and never stop working and all that shit. It's important to not burn out. Is I guess the message that I want to put out there is like take some time to go on a walk and have some lunch with your family and shit because that's what we do this for. At least that's what I do this for. I do this so I get to continue to put food on the table for these people, but at the end of the day, I do music because one, I love it, but two, because it allows me to provide for my family. So I got to take time to experience that.
Totally. Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of bigger like artists and producers kind of share that same mindset recently, which I think is a really positive thing for this
Hmm.
generation. Like I've seen Illmind talk a lot about like he just tweets stuff like, "I'm gonna make a lot of beats today and then get a lot of sleep tonight." And it's like that's
Yeah,
totally
right.
different than how it would have been 5 years ago.
Totally, you
Yeah.
know, totally. But the thing, like, across a timeline, right? You look at, like, I could be the guy for a year that makes 10 beats a day, sleeps 3 hours, and just
Yeah.
grinds, right? But chances are my career is gonna be, I don't know, I mean, I'm significantly shorter than the individual who takes care of themselves, takes care of their body, and most importantly, takes care of their mind, because this industry is full of people trying to fuck with your head.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're not in control of what's going on upstairs and you're just on this like path of just grind, you gotta take a step back and realize that this is the power that you have to control, right? And
Yeah.
if you're in control of your own mental health and in control of your creativity, then you're gone, man. That's amazing. Like you're on your way. But it's just the individuals that kind of sink into, I guess, unhealthy habits and stuff that are tend to not have the longest careers, if you know what I mean.
Totally.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like it's all about sustainability, you know? Like
Yeah.
this is a really long journey for a lot of people and like you said,
Hopefully, yeah, hopefully it should be, you know.
yeah, and it's you know, Matt and I the other day on our other episode, we were talking about how I wish I started some of the things I was passionate about when I was like in middle school because
Mhm.
it's like all those extra years and it's so it's cool that you're how old are you? 25?
I'm 25. Yeah.
25? That's cool that you've been doing it for 11 years and you're still just
Yeah.
25. So like
Yeah.
And
you've
you're
you
still just as passionate about it.
Oh no, 100%, man, and I think that's a big reason. I also teach, so I teach music. I teach Ableton to 7th and 8th graders, and then I also teach high school kids. And that has been a big goal of mine. It was a big goal of mine for years and years, was to start establishing education programs for music production specifically, because I was, that young kid, and then I got into high school, and my high school didn't have anything at all like remotely related to music production. So that's a big reason that I started actually teaching, right? Is so I teach music production to 7th and 8th graders, and I teach the high school kids as well. And it was a huge goal of mine back in the day to create music production programs, like education programs for younger individuals to start getting into this earlier and earlier, and not to just create a shit ton of producers, but to open the eyes of individuals, parents specifically, that there are career paths within the entertainment industry that are extremely attainable, right? And are very, very high valued careers in this industry that these kids can learn about from a younger age. But it's like I remember when I taught one of my first classes, and it was like this presentation day, and the kids like all set up their laptops, and we're gonna like play beats for their parents, and some dad walked in and was like, "Oh, cool, cool, yeah, this is a cool hobby." And I just stopped him in his tracks. I go, "No, it's not a hobby, actually. It doesn't have to be."
yeah.
And he goes, "Well, like," kind of started talking about like, "Well, a real job." And I'm just like, man, like we got to get rid of that stigma, because creativity and early education with regards to creativity, and specifically this type of creativity, which is, computer based and very much the future, it's really important for these kids to know, and for these kids to learn and have a way to express themselves. Because I, as an individual, if I didn't have this in high school, I promise you I would be in a very different place right now. I would probably be either dead in jail, really fucked up, or working a 9 to 5, which are all things that I just didn't really want to do. So without Ableton and without music production in general, like I would not have had an outlet creatively. So I'm real thankful for it, but it was a big reason that I started those programs.
Yeah,
That's
that's
dope.
huge. And there's so many like I don't know. I went to college for a year for film school, but I
Mm,
knew that like I knew I wanted to be in a certain type of film. I didn't want to be in like the Hollywood blockbuster movies
yeah.
type of stuff. But even at universities, a lot of schools don't have the programs for certain types of artists to pursue the type of
Hmm.
stuff they want to do. And it's like it's so annoying because sometimes it feels like the only place to learn a certain skill set in music or in video or whatever
It's
is
like
like
on your own.
YouTube.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. And the cool thing is, like, nowadays, I look at all the resources and stuff, and there's way more resources than when I first started,
Totally.
which just shows me even in like a 10 year gap, like there's so much change that's happened, positive change. The accessibility of music making, and even like programs on just your Chrome browser and stuff that you can make beats on and stuff. So the ability to be creative is a lot, uh, I guess it's a lot easier to attain. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. I think we're definitely heading in the right direction with regards to education on this topic specifically. But it takes time for anybody to to kind of agree with new things, right? Because a
Yeah.
lot of a lot of music schools and stuff are still only teaching classical and music and theory and things like that. But computer music is where all of the music that everyone's listening to right now is being made. Even extremely acoustic stuff is all being ran through some type of program, right? So
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, and I kind of I heard what's yeah, it was this one thing. I think it was like at some point somebody listened to the piano and was like, why are they what no, like that's a new sound, we don't like that, like stick to the harpsichord. Or it was the other way around or something like that. But it was like, just showed me like, what, man, all through time there's been moments where creative individuals create certain things and different types of music and creativity, and everybody looks at it and is like, fuck that, that's different.
Right.
But we're in that phase right now, and people are starting to learn that, so that's pretty cool.
It's crazy to think like where are things going to be 10 years from now, just thinking
Right.
about what you said about how different it was for resources being out there 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, at the end of the day, man, cream will always rise to the top. So it's a lot of people freak out about like so many people. There's so many producers now. There's so many rappers, so many this and that. It's like, yeah, there is, but the biggest difference is that there most likely there was always that many people making music, right?
Yeah.
It's just that we have social media now that we can actually see some kid in Poland who's making beats now versus back before the internet and social media, we would have had no idea that there was a genre of music of underground 14-year-olds making hyper pop in the middle of Poland. Who knows?
Yeah.
Like we
Totally.
wouldn't know that shit. So it's like we're in a totally different place right now where it's not necessarily more and more people are making music, which there probably are, but it's just there's a lot more ways to actually be heard now.
Yeah. And
But Cream,
it forces all the other producers around the world. It's like everybody gets better because they see there's
Because
so
everyone's
much
pushing each
competition.
other. Yeah.
100%, man. Everyone gets better, and I think as long as people realize it's a healthy competition, right? It stays positive, right? And a big part of that is just that a lot of people kind of feel like there's only so many spots, right? There's only
Mhm.
so many, and but it's not like the NBA or the NFL where there's legitimately only this specific amount of people that can be in it. It's like, you can pop off and make some weird shit that people just end up liking, and there's an entirely new lane for
Yeah.
people to go down, right? So there's an endless amount of spots and whatnot within the industry, but as long as people realize that and stop stepping on each other's backs and just kind of helping other people, it's like that's how you get places, personally.
Yeah.
Right. There's like you don't have to be Drake. Like you can be an artist with 10,000 followers and
Yeah.
fans and like tour off that and make a living off that. You don't have
Hmm.
to be the biggest name in the world to
Yeah.
have a successful music career.
Well, hey, man, and I guess that depends on what your definition of success is, right? Because a lot of
Right.
people go into this industry with that mindset of I need to be Drake. I need to have $1 billion in my bank account. If not, I'm not fucking happy,
Good
right? And
luck.
it's like, yeah, great. And like, look, there's always a chance. I'm never gonna tell somebody that they can't do that because they can, 100%. But you have to kind of set your mind on what makes you happy and why you're doing this in order to not face that burnout that we were just talking about, right? And for me, having the ability to sit here on a Tuesday at 4 o'clock, where most people are sitting in maybe not a suit and tie anymore, but sitting in front of their laptops, right, in their
Yeah.
9 to 5 meetings and things like that. And I'm just grateful I have the ability to be able to do this, right, and be able to sit down and wake up and make music and be creative and actually live off of that. Like that's a blessing on its own. So anything from this point, that's just the icing on top of the cake, man. So
Yeah, 100%. Have you, through your teaching, like these classes that you're teaching, are these through like the public school system?
So it's a few. So I teach at one private school, and then I also teach at one alternative public school.
Okay.
So it's very, very different, kids. But the cool thing is that they all are creative in their own ways, right? So it just shows you that just because kids are entirely different, have totally different backgrounds, they all just are doing the same thing, right? And creating music and being creative and having a set amount of time to actually be able to do that. And oh man, I just look at that and I wish I had that so bad back in the day. But yeah, no, man, it's a really cool thing to watch.
Do you feel like you have been able to kind of change some parents' perspectives or open their eyes to the fact that like this could be a career if your child is really passionate about this, like there's a way to do it?
Definitely. And I'm also not like I'm not the kind of teacher that's like you guys can all do this. Like you're going to all be famous and
Yeah.
rich. Like I make it very well known that hey, if you want to do this, you're going to work your ass off, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
And if you don't, you're going to get lapped, and that's just how it goes, right? And I scare them the way I was scared in the beginning, right? When bigger individuals told me like, "Hey, you know how much work this is going to be?" Right? And then
Yeah.
I decided like, yeah, I'm signing up for this. Let's do it. But I without having that reality check, and it was always kind of my dad was the reality check, right? But it was never like you can't do this. It was like you can do it, but just know what you're signing up for, right? And
Yeah.
and I kind of give that mindset to the kids as much as I can, but I don't want to scare anybody. I want them to have fun.
Yeah.
He's just yelling at all the kids like, "You're
Yeah,
never
you
gonna
guys
make
suck.
it."
Well, it's so interesting. Like a lot of or multiple times now, you've mentioned your parents and how they've been supportive and kind of been the people that have like helped push you. And I think that it's so important to have parents that understand what you're trying to do and can get behind it. And like, there's probably so many kids that could have
Either
been producers or wanted to be, or like
Hmm.
anything, like any sort of artist, and their parents just didn't get behind it. And that's huge, having parents that like get it and give you the freedom to pursue that.
Oh, totally, man. And I took that for granted a lot as a kid because I didn't really know the difference until I got to a point where I had friends who weren't allowed to listen to a song with the word shit in it, right? And I was
Yeah.
like, wait, what? Or like you can't listen. I remember like specifically shout out Matthew Mayberg and Terry Mayberg for putting the I still have some of the songs from his iTunes that are like locked and they're all like clean version. But I remember like I remember going over to his house, and that was like the first time someone told me like, oh no, like I can't listen to that type of music. And I was like, damn, that's crazy. But I was just, I grew up in a really free flowing household, and I watched whatever movies it was that I felt like I wanted to watch, and listened to all kinds of genres and of music and whatnot. And it was just it worked for me. You know what I mean? And it doesn't work for all kids, but it worked for me. And I'm really thankful for that because without that, I don't think I would have had the exposure to so many different types of music and so many different types of art. My mom's an art teacher too. So I came home from school and we were doing art projects after
Yeah.
school all day. So I definitely took it for granted at a young age, the type of parents I had, and their support. But I,
Well,
I'm just trying to make a good or good lead a good example, I should say,
yeah.
on how parents should be supportive of their kids in the right way. And that doesn't mean just like let them do anything they want. Like, believe me, no, I was disciplined. Like, I was very respectful, shit like that. But I was also able to express myself in a lot of ways that other kids weren't.
so I was going through, before the interview, I tried to do my due diligence and do some research and stuff. So I
Sure.
was going through your YouTube channel and everything. And I actually saw a couple weeks ago when you posted your kind of like behind the scenes called The
Yeah.
Recipe of
Yeah.
making Dempsey Hope's like the beat for Roller Rink, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know, I just wanted to talk to you about that, and because I think that's really cool, and it reminded me a lot about like how genius will.
It's like they're deconstructed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
love
mean that was
those.
obviously a huge inspiration for it, and but a big part of it was just I grew up on those videos, and I'm pretty sure I watched every video of people making beats on YouTube like ever as a kid because
Yeah.
that's all I did. I came home and I wanted to learn how other people did shit, right? And that's how you learn in the beginning is you watch, you imitate, and then you create your own. So I, for a long time, had been really, really wanting to start breaking down the records that I'm producing because there's so much that goes into these things that people just don't realize. And I definitely wanted to lead by example because as a kid, I was the kid who was consuming that content. So
Yeah.
I know there's individuals out there that can really learn from that, and some that just don't want to learn from it, but just kind of want to watch and be entertained and see how their favorite songs are made and things like that. So I made the decision with my best friend Ronnie, who did all the filming and editing, to just start doing that series. Called it The Recipe because my theme is it's always been food related, man. Always has. I'm a big
Yeah.
foodie. I'm a big
I
foodie.
saw in your other, I think it might have been your bumper shoot video or one of your other
The
videos, you were
chicken.
making like chicken
Oh
wings or
my
something.
god, yeah, dude, that was a funny ass day. I was like, we should just center this entire video around these chicken wings I'm making. Yeah. but but yeah, man, that series is gonna be really cool. You know, it's just gonna develop as the songs develop as well,
Mhm.
and I just love it as like an outlet for other people to be able to kind of see inside the process.
Yeah.
That's cool. Are there any big like Seattle producers that kind of inspired you coming up? Like, cause that just made me think of Jake One. He has a series where
Yeah.
he'll like break down his beats.
Well, definitely his whole series was another big inspiration too.
Yeah.
Because when I was younger, I watched all of those videos. Believe me, because my name's Jake. His name's Jake. Like when I first learned there was another Jake in Seattle that was like making music and making beats and stuff, I was like, who is this guy, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, man, it's really funny because back when I was like 15, I met this guy named Fado Luciano, who is still, in my opinion, one of the most talented lyricists from Seattle ever. And he, you know, he obviously knew Jake One pretty well with regard, you know, music wise, because I believe he produced a few songs for Fatal over time. I could be wrong, but yeah, he was like, man, I remember sitting in the studio up north, and he was like, man, you Jake One's like, you like Jake too. And I was like,
Jake too.
from that point, man, it's just kind of funny. But Jake's so talented, man. And I've had the chance to sit down and kind of pick his brain a little bit over the years and whatnot. And he's just a wealth of knowledge in an entirely different area, right? And the way he makes beats is an entirely different process. And I think that was a big reason I was so like intrigued by what he was doing because he made stuff in a totally different process. So
Right. Yeah.
totally expanded my mind as a young kid, you know, learning how to sample music because that's his big thing, and that's what you know he does it better than most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
How much of a like how big of a part of your career does like or how much I guess how passionate are you about like the Seattle music scene? Because I've noticed that a lot of you know, you seem to rep Seattle pretty hard. A lot of the artists that you produce for are Seattle artists,
Hmm.
and like I don't know, I guess a lot of the artists we've had on this show just work with kind of anyone from
Hmm.
anywhere, and they're not
They're more
really.
like internet connected with
Sure,
their
sure,
people
sure.
they work with.
Yeah, but you seem
Yeah.
pretty grounded in like Seattle and like I guess what started that or how come you're so passionate about
Sure.
it?
Yeah, I think a big reason that I'm so passionate about the industry here specifically is because it's what gave me my start, and all the people that I knew that gave me opportunities and that helped me along the way were from this scene. So there's a lot to give back there, and I'm a big believer in that. You know, that's karma. Somebody does something good for you, you do something good for them. So, but I've never really been the guy that's been like 206 till I die, like put the Space Needle on the cover of all my songs or anything like that. But it's less of like this like local pride thing and more of me just wanting to show people that there's talent here, you know, and there's a lot of talent, and all it needs is a little bit of a polish, and it's ready for the big time. And that's really what I've been doing with the whole pop scene is because I kind of saw a gap. You know, there's a lot of hip hop, there's a decent amount of like EDM and acoustic and kind of singer songwriter stuff, but the pop lane was fairly untapped, you know, a few years back, and that's when I kind of decided I was like, hey, you know, I want to start going down this pop lane. But yeah, I think a big reason that I'm passionate about the industry here locally is just because it's what gave me all of my opportunities, right? And I'm a big believer in giving back. So for me, I'm just trying to create a lane and create a pipeline, I should say, to the major industry, which is something that this city has been lacking for quite some time because we don't really have an industry here. We have artists and we have producers and we have creatives, but we don't have an industry, right? There's no major labels that are actually based out of Seattle and whatnot. And hopefully that day will come. That'd be amazing. But for now, it's like I'm just trying to build the talent that I see around me, and it happens to be local. And there's so much talent here to discover. So big thing that I've been working on, is creating a bit of a pop industry here, and I've been working on that for the past couple of years and developing some underground pop artists that I think have an insane amount of potential, and I love my city, and I love the art that's created here, but it needs a little bit more of a light shined on it, man, because there's so much talent here, but it just takes a little bit of time to polish some of that, you know what I mean, and really show it to the rest of the world. So
Yeah, that's really interesting. I never really even thought about what you were saying, how there's not really an industry of it here. Like a lot of people from Seattle, if they get big, they move to LA or they move to
mhm,
Nashville or
yeah.
they go somewhere where the heart of the industry is. But that would be pretty incredible if Seattle could
Seattle's like a new
become like
hub.
another hub where people want
I
to move
I
and
would
want to.
love that, and I mean, here's the thing: LA is always going to be the entertainment capital of the world, really,
Yeah.
at least this country, and I'm definitely not trying to fight that and be like everyone from LA move to Seattle because there's not enough room. Like,
Yeah.
no, we're already at max capacity here with regards to people, but still, it's just even having like I said, that kind of pipeline. Understand that people need to go to LA for their label meetings, and people need to go down there for whatever, working with certain people. But there is such an amazing opportunity here to create an industry. It just takes time and effort, man. And I definitely don't expect to do it all by myself. But and I'm the first to admit that going to LA is very beneficial. Like there's a lot of people there that are doing a lot of cool things, and the happen chance of you just running into somebody at a coffee shop is a lot more likely there than here. So I definitely don't frown upon people that make that move to LA because I go down there pretty frequently, especially, I mean, not COVID time, but like
Yeah.
outside of that, it's like, it's a great place to be. But I think there is a really cool opportunity to create a bit of an industry here. And like I said, man, it just takes time, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What for you, like you said earlier, you're kind of just now getting to a point where you're close to where you want to be or where you feel like you can be. And I'm sure there's still a lot of room for improvement in your mind, but what is kind of the
The goal, the
the
dream.
biggest goal and dream for you? Like what do you want to achieve when it's all said and done?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm living my goal and dream right now, which is really cool. But I'm constantly setting new goals for myself, and my dreams always expand, even when I'm like, hey, like this moment's happening right now, experience it, this is amazing. But it's like I've always been a what's next kind of guy. So at the same time, I'm trying to soak in this moment and understand that a lot of cool things are happening and appreciate it, but also continue to look further and figure out what that next step is. So I mean, for me, it's just right now I'm just expanding as much as I can and working with a ton of different people, and meeting a ton of people on the larger major industry side of things that are I guess, helping formulate my mind as to what I want to do, right? And a big thing that I've always said is I want to be known in multiple genres as the guy that just knows how to get it done.
Hmm.
I've never wanted to be a one genre producer, one artist producer. I love jumping around and creating different things, and challenging artists. That's another level of mine, is to be able to sit down and push somebody outside of their comfort zone to create something new, right? And as long as I can walk into any room, whether it's the kid from next door or Beyonce, it's like I want to be able to somehow make their music better, right? So yeah, that's kind of the stage I'm in right now, and a big goal for 2021 is just branching out and hopefully landing a few placements here and there, and kind of just going along for the ride, man. It's just been a lot of fun with this whole new Dempsey stuff going on now that he's signed to RCA, and that's just opened up a whole new can of worms in the best way possible. So
Yeah. That's awesome. I one of the questions I actually had written down before is like how much, since you work with so many different genres and so many different artists, what is the collaborative process like? Like when you work with someone who maybe is newer, who you think has a lot of talent,
Mhm.
and you clearly have been doing it for a while, how much like
Creative control.
creative control, I guess, do you as a producer have? Like, will you kind of guide the process of the song, and will you kind of tell them like, listen, maybe we do this instead of that, or do you let the artist? Do you always try and create the vision that the artist has from the get go, or how does that work?
I think every song's different, and that's the reason that's a hard question to answer is because every single song, every single session is different. Like there'll be times that an artist will come in and have an entire idea done, right, and be like, "Hey, just produce it." And I'll do my job and I'll produce it. But what I'm good at and what I love to do is pull something out of the artist that they didn't know they had, right? And that's those are the best sessions in my opinion, right? Those are the ones where breakthroughs happen. But that takes a lot of time with artists. Like there are certain. I remember when Vrilla, who is actually, we should definitely talk about him. He's killing it right now. He's
Yeah.
Ryan Carvale's little brother.
Oh, okay.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I had to connect the dots for you there. Yeah, so Vrilla is Ryan Carvale's little brother. He's been a great friend of mine. He's I call him my brother. For years now, and he came into my studio and he was like, "I don't sing, dude. No, I don't sing." And I was like, okay, like we'll get there. and now he's sitting here years later just fucking belting notes that he had no clue he could hit. So but if I was the producer that was like, "Oh, okay, you don't sing. I guess we'll just not do that." Then he would still be making the exact same music he was making when he first came in my door.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like you have to and it's not about being a dick as a producer and be like, "You're gonna fucking sing, whether you like it or not." But it's like, it's just about allowing people to find their own way, but just with your hand on their back, just pushing them along a little bit, and that's what a great producer does is they just allow the artist to grow in their own way, right? And it takes time. Some artists develop in 1 year, right? Some artists develop in 1 month. Some artists develop in 10 years. It's so different and it's totally fine each way, but it's obviously tough when people look at, a 16-year-old kid like popping off of one song that they made in their basement, some
Yeah.
shit. But an artist development is so different in each and every case, but that's a big reason that I am still doing this is because it is different. It's not the same process for everyone, so it keeps my job interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Dempsey, you've been working with him for like 2 years, right?
Yeah, so yeah, at first it was kind of actually I gotta attest a lot of that to Vrilla, to Vinny, because Dempsey hit me up and I had known of his music for a while because he was working with another buddy of mine. And he hit me up and was like, "Hey, I'd love to do a session." And I was, my first thing is like, what is this kid about? Like, let me hear some shit, let me this and
Yeah.
that, whatever. And he came to me, he's like, I have nothing, bro. Like, I don't have money, I don't have this, I don't have that. And I'm just like, And so and I actually hit up Vrilla because he's a good friend of Dempsey's, and I was like, "Man, is this kid worth it? Like, should I take some time and do some stuff with him?" And he was like, "I think he's worth it, man." So then Dempsey came in the studio as just this, just a young kid with a ton of pent up creative energy and like figuring out where to just fucking put it.
Yeah.
And that's what started the process. And we just started making records, and eventually we sat down and made a number of records that started to develop and develop and develop. And I was like, "Hey, like these kind of fit together." I shouldn't say we were like, "Hey, these fit together. What is this?" Right? And that's what became Dempsey's album, which
Yeah.
after about a year and a half of development and getting him to feel really comfortable with the message, the voice, everything, right? We started to actually define his sound, which was really, really fun, and it just took a shit ton of time, man. And it took time to be able to sit down and try and pull out of him like what he always wanted. And that's my favorite moment is when I get to look over and see on an artist's face like them actually hearing their music for the first time, like music they want to make, like they truly want to make. And that's a special moment, and that definitely happened after the completion of all those records that we eventually compiled to be the album, which is coming this year, which is exciting. I'm very
Oh,
Oh
excited
wow.
about. Yeah, man. So
So his project that's out right
the Dempsey
now,
Hope
the
project.
Dempsey Hope project,
yeah,
is
that's
that was that his first project that he ever put out?
that's the first like EP. That's not an album.
Okay.
Yeah, but that was just a compilation of music that man, the whole Dempsey situation was so interesting, man, because we make music in a very different way. And I actually didn't really realize it was super different until I started telling people, and they were like, "What the what?" But a lot of times, like a ton of these Dempsey records have come from him just coming in with a written idea, him laying it down as an acapella. I'll find like a like you saw it in the roller rink video. I
Mhm.
find a tempo that's gonna work. We record it, and then I'll just build a beat around it. So the process that we had, that we currently have, just really allows us to create as many ideas as we possibly can in such a short amount of time. Which, when it came to the point where I was like, "Hey, let's start showing this music to people," we had like 30 records in the bank by the
Wow.
time any labels were even calling his name, so that really it kind of set us up to be able to have this post signing situation be very different than most people's post signing situation, which is a lot of people will blow up off of one song and then sign to a label, get an advance, and then go create an album, whereas the album was done. The EP was done by the
Yeah.
time we, signed to RCA. So it's just a totally, totally kind of out of the box experience altogether. But a lot of that is, really kind of shows you how the process of working with different artists is entirely different, because that's not at all how I make music with majority of the other artists I work with.
Yeah. How is it different than, for example, let's say Vrilla? Because I wanted
hmm
to ask you about him as well.
Yeah.
How did those processes differ, and what is your kind of history with Vrilla?
Yeah, so Vrilla, Vinny, my brother, my boy, he came to me. I'd known of him forever as like Ryan's little bro, because Ryan is one of my best friends in the industry, and we've known each other for years and years, and always knew his little brother. And he one day he like DM'd me on Instagram, was like, "Yo, check out the song I'm making," and I was like, "This isn't great, man. It's not great."
Yeah.
And but I felt the passion, you know what I mean? And that's the biggest thing, bro. And anybody who's good at producing and good at development will be able to see through the bullshit to be able to find the diamond in the rough, right? And so he started coming and like recording vocals and just like booking recording sessions with me. And then he was like making the same stuff, blah blah blah. And then I was making this beat one night, like after our session, and he was like, "Can I go freestyle to this?" And I was like, "Absolutely, go ahead." So he goes to the booth and he starts freestyling. It was like this 5 minute long, just gas ass freestyle. I was like, "What are you? What? Why are we making this shit? What are you talking? Who the fuck is this kid in my booth right now?"
Yeah.
Right? And I mean, I remember I was sitting there, and my dad was like, it was when the studio was upstairs, which was before we built this studio, and it was like in the middle of my living room. My dad was like, "What the fuck? I didn't know he could do that." And bro, I kid you not, he just went off the dome for like 5 minutes straight, and it was just gas. And I was like, "Bro, all right, let's buckle down. Let's like actually do this shit." So that's when the development of Rilla really started. And man, dude, he's developed so much over the past 2 years. Like, and I can't even express how much he's developed, which is so exciting. I mean, the kid has so much passion in him. He has such an interesting look, such a cool vibe that I'm really excited for the day that the world knows who Vrilla is. That's
Yeah.
gonna be an exciting day.
That's got to be an amazing feeling for you, kind of just helping these guys grow into what they could be as an artist.
Totally,
And like
dude.
without him coming to you, like even if he probably went to a different producer, he wouldn't have maybe unlocked this sound that he didn't even know he had.
Yeah, well, exactly, and that's why I love my job so much, is because it's there's I'm just trying to crack a bunch of fucking eggs that either gonna have gold inside or nothing. Like I
Yeah.
don't know, but I've been fortunate enough to be able to find people like-minded individuals that are willing to go through this process too. Because the willingness is a huge part of it, man. It's like, if you're an artist and you're not willing to break out of your comfort zone, and you're not Drake yet. Like,
Good luck.
like good luck, man. You got to break out of that comfort zone, and I hope every creative can find somebody who pushes them, and I just that's what I try to be, man. I try to be the producer that pushes people but cares about them 10 times more. So that's all,
Yeah.
you know.
How is it like when you said when Dempsey came to you, he came to you and said like, "Listen, I don't really have anything."
Yeah.
And you kind of worked with him cuz you knew that there was like something special there.
Yeah.
Like how do you kind of make that decision and that distinction between someone who's like trying to work with you for free and like doesn't have much to offer you versus
Mhm.
like because you are putting in a lot of time and energy and
Yeah.
effort and resources to like help someone like him make songs when they don't really have anything. Is it just like a
Yeah.
gut feeling, like you just know like this is worth my time to work with this guy?
Yeah, that was definitely a gut feeling, but also, when I had the cosign from somebody else, somebody that I trusted, to for them to say like, "Hey, man, I think you could be worth it." I trust my gut. I trust certain other people's guts, and with that, it's I do whatever my gut tells me to do, man. And it was a lot different too because obviously at that point I didn't have as much quote unquote success as we're at right now. So I I was like, you know what, fuck it, man. What do I got to lose
Yeah.
besides some time? And that's really all it is. But time is very valuable. Everybody knows that. So this one just happened to be a situation where it worked out. And I've had plenty of situations where it hasn't.
Yeah.
I've sat down with artists and created entire projects that have yet to come out, and developed and spent years on certain artists and that music has yet to see the light of day. But that doesn't mean that I regret that time because without that I wouldn't have had the ability to branch out of what I was comfortable with regards to production. Right? Because as a producer, every artist that I've encountered, every terrible session, every great session, every whatever it is, it always pushes me to think outside of the box and push my own comfort zone, right?
Yeah, 100%. Who in 2021, which artists, whether it's a Seattle artist or just someone who's maybe a little underground still on the come up, like who would you tell the listeners to like look out for? Who are you really excited for in this upcoming year?
Like artists that I'm working with or artists
Well,
that
yeah,
just in
you're,
general.
I mean, I guess artists you're working with specifically, but also maybe just other people you know of that you'd like to work with or that you just think are really talented.
Yeah, man. Well, I always got to shout out the individuals I'm working with, always. So Dempsey's going to have a great year. I'm very excited for Vrilla. Ali Diane is an amazing vocalist. That's definitely going to start releasing stuff this year. Kelly Rose is an amazing writer. If you ever need a hit, you give her a call. Like there's all these people that I work with. There's so much talent here, but outside of my little circle, man, there's a bunch of artists that are doing amazing things, man. Huge. I mean, keep an eye out for Ryan Carvale. A lot of people already know who he is, but dude, his new music is so dope.
Yeah.
Huge shout out to him and everything that he does, man. That's my boy. But yeah, man. I mean, artists. I'm six. I listen to new music like every day, so I'm trying to figure out
Who's your current, like in your current rotation, who's your current favorites?
current favorites. Let's see. Well, honestly, man, the new Kid Cudi album I just had on like repeat. That shit
Yeah.
was so good. I think a lot of that too is that that's like one of my dream projects is to
Mm.
produce on like a Kid Cudi project. Well, you can see like the fucking poster.
Oh
right
yeah,
there.
Yeah.
Like yeah, that's just a dream of mine, man. But man, let me think of some artist shit. Dude, I found this guy Child, Chiiild. Holy
Okay.
shit!
Never heard of him. Is he
His
what
stuff
type of
is
music?
so fire. It's kind of like Tame Impala indie, but uh, just banging as well. Like it's so crazy, man.
Okay.
dope.
My homie Nick Weaver sent me his stuff, and dude, it's so fire, dude. But no, I mean, there's a ton of large artists and stuff that I'm really excited about. But I've been really getting into like reggaeton. So
Oh,
that's a
okay.
huge, yeah, man. I've been like obsessed with Bad Bunny and stuff. Like his new
Mm.
album, holy shit, it's so good. It's just so well produced, and that's something that I'm, I always pay attention to is like who produced this and like did they really, really, really care about these records? And dude, you can just feel that every record on his project was just so unique and interesting, in my opinion. So definitely was sparked the reggaeton interest in my mind, man. So hopefully I can make a reggaeton song this year. That'll be a goal of mine.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So there's definitely a few other artists that I'm like really excited about for this year too. Danny Orange being one of them. Really dope artist. Really dope videographer. Like that's his main thing too.
Oh wow.
But been working on some bangers with him, bro. He's down in Arizona, man. Like the kid's got a really really cool vibe. But yeah. So I mean, there's a ton of artists I could shout out, but it's they're all so amazing. I couldn't name all
Yeah,
of them.
for
you
sure.
know. So.
Well, we're really excited. Is there any project or songs that are like have a release date in the near future that you can say, or
plug.
is are
There are. I can't
Okay,
say the
okay?
release dates
No,
yet,
no worries.
unfortunately, because I got a call this morning about release dates of a project that I'm very very excited about. That are it's coming very very soon. I
Okay.
should say.
Well, that's awesome.
Um,
Where can people
yeah.
follow
So
you if they want to keep up to date with your music and everything?
at any social media is it's at I am Jake Jake Crocker like Betty. So I am Jake Crocker at on Instagram, TikTok, all that cool stuff. On YouTube, just search my name, something will pop up. Go watch some of those videos, man. I'm excited. We're gonna put out a few more of the episodes of the recipe as well, which is gonna be super
Yeah,
exciting.
that's
So
awesome. Hey, well, thanks again, man. This was super cool. Matt, where can they follow you?
You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at the Matt Mog.
You can follow me at Hey Narwhal on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And you can also check out our other podcast called Peak to Middle School, filmed in the same studio here with me and my buddy Kyle. If you guys are a new listener here, if you could leave a review on the Apple Podcast app, that would be awesome. It helps out a lot. But with that being said, thanks again, Jake. And hopefully we can maybe interview you again in a year from now or sometime when there's a bunch more music to talk about.
anytime, man. Anytime. Absolutely, guys. Thanks so much for
Yes,
having
bro.
me, man.
Guys, there's new episodes every single Monday, and we'll see you guys next week.
Peace.